Okay, so I think we should start because we are a little bit late, but it's been a little nice chat in the beginning. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I always like to start like that, right? Depending on where you are receiving us. Today we are going to have a discussion on a very interesting subject, which is writing conscientiology for children. And our guest is Debora Klippel. So let me introduce Debora. Debora has a degree in industrial design with a specialization in graphic and web design by New and School of Visual Arts in New York. She is by profession a graphic designer and an entrepreneur. She is the author and illustrator of the book, The Little Researcher, Multidimensionality, which I always like to say it's only the first of a series of books for children, the new intermissivists, right? Introducing conscientiology to the new intermissivists, reminding the children about what they learned during the intermissive course. And so introducing basic concepts of conscientiology and the pillars of the consciential paradigm. So Debora has been a volunteer with conscientiology since 2013, is a Penta practitioner, and she is an instructor since 2014. Her areas of research are parapsychism and holomnemonics, and currently she is volunteering with Consecutivos. So over to you, Debora. Welcome.
Very, very nice to be here. For me, it's very challenging to be here talking another language, but I think it's very important to try. So I'm counting on Liliana and Jacqueline that always support myself. And I hope I can help you understand the importance to speak about conscientiology for children since the first age, even though with books or whatever it comes about, but we need to start as soon as possible, because then we can prevent many things to them, or trying to help them to find the conscientiological and their proaxis toward the goals during their lives. So I will start from introducing myself, and I came across conscientiology in 2012. And in that time, I already had two children. That was Luisa and Gabriel. They were very young still. Gabriel used to be 2.5 years old, and Luisa 5. So when I got introduced to conscientiology, the first thing I thought was, wow, I should have known all this before. This is everything I have been seeking for. So since I felt too in the right path, like in the right way, since I know conscientiology, I thought, how, having known all about these concepts before, like early in life, it could have helped me avoid some mistakes and also some self-mimesis, and maybe how could help me avoid some wasting time and passing through a deeper basement phases in my teens, right? But in the between, while I was searching about conscientiology, before I could find that, I was searching around. So I went to spiritual groups such as Cardaces or some other lines of knowledge, but that they're very mystical or also dogmatic, and they could not actually help me a lot. And so I decided, so that's the first point. how conscientiology was very important to me. And as a mother, like I find a problem because I was, as a mother, looking for some conscientiological books, children's books, that could me help introduce what I was like, how can I say, I was studying a lot in conscientiological books. I was having my time putting in too many hours to watching videos, going to class, reading books, and my kids are asking me, what are you doing? And I want to tell them what I was doing. Mm-hmm. And the first thing I thought, why, let me look for children's book that could help me talk about this subject with my children. I found one, it called in Portuguese, Boa Noite Universo, which says it's good evening universe, but doesn't have in English. But in that time, it was already out of stock. So I could not have found 1, 2 books didn't explain what I am, what I want to not introduce the consciential paradigm as I thought it was needed. For example, the basis or something for the beginning, right? So it was when I realized that books for children here in conscientiology was really missing, right? And when I realized that, I started to make a question in my mind. So how do we talk about the consciential paradigm to children? And the question stayed there in my mind, sat there. And I like to say, because I also volunteer in UNIESCON, and one of my classes is, and what I say is the best way to find a team or to have new ideas is to observe a problem and ask questions, right? Then you can leave that questions incubating in your mind, and when you least expect it, the answer comes up. And it was exactly what happened to me. Say, Liliana.
Debora, one thing, this is a bit what the creative method is, right? You need to know a lot about the subject. You kind of, absorb all you can about the subject. Sometimes you have to research a lot, read a lot, did they have this information? And then you ask the questions, right? The questions that need an answer. And then there is this time that seems nothing is happening sometimes, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's in the head, it's all in the head, but nothing seems to be happening. And all of a sudden you have an idea, or as I generally say, we perceive an idea comes to us, right?
Yeah,
Would you agree?
Yeah, completely. Because it's not like you make a question and then you have a magical answer all at the same time. You must mature, like you need to make it work inside your mind and with your tools.
It's the incubation period.
Yes, that's it. But you also are doing what you need to do while everything is going on, right? Yeah. So you will still be a mom, you still studying conscientiology, you are doing your everyday life. So, but you never forget about the aim to answer that question. That's the main point. And it works for even with other subjects. You need to write it down. Like for writing, like when you get stuck in every point in your routine of writing, the first thing I used to say is make a question. What's the point that are stuck in you on that? what you need to know that you don't know to write it down. So make a question and then go to have a walk, go to take a shower, go to have a nice break, and then maybe, or in a while, in a few weeks, it will come.
Yes.
Because you have it in your mind, and probably you need to look around to find the answer. And I like
think it happens a lot that exactly these answers come is kind of when you least expect it, because you're doing something totally different or in a totally different moment, and
Yes.
then the answer comes to you. So this is a very interesting process.
We talked about this in the heuristic.
Exactly.
It is the same. Yeah, heuristics. And when the idea fresh up in your mind, and it's kind of eureka, right?
Yeah, it's a eureka moment.
Yes.
Yeah, this is very interesting. Never ceases to amaze me.
Yeah. So how did the idea came about? In my case, right? It was a weekend, and Philip, my husband, have traveled to an immersive course in conscienciology, and I couldn't not go with him because I was taking care of the children. So we used to take turns. Once he goes, once I go. So in that moment was only we three at home, and we are playing like while we sitting on the floor with and actually like, I was watching them playing, and I was like trying to think about Philip also, that was doing classes, what he was studying, what he was learning that I was not. And when in that moment the idea for the book came into my head, because the answer I was looking for, like the story, the characters, the search, and their curiosity in finding the answer for questions that no one really know how to answer, and all the start to popping up in my mind while there with my kids, and the idea like continuing to grow. And I thought like I need to write it down right now, like, because the idea that came into my mind was the pillars of the consciential paradigm. Okay, it seems very obvious, but how to talk about these pillars to the kids, since we are talking about a very complex subject, right? And in that moment, I realized I need to write immediately, because the things was like very easy to understand in that child way. So I need to put down at least the main topics to be able to complete the sentence after all. So I pick up my iPad that was very close to myself in that moment, and I was a little bit afraid because it was too many things going on into my mind, and I was afraid and the detail. And I start to type, right? And to my surprise, like my thoughts, since I start to type, it flows very straight and organized and interconnected, like everything was together, one after another. And I realized the script that came up seemed very logical and appealing also. And okay, and I noticed that there was a helper like together with me in that moment, because I perceived signal, energetical signal, and I felt okay, but nice, I'm not alone. The idea is not mine. It came from an inspiration, something like that. But I realized, even though the helper are introducing some idea into your head or talking telepathic with you, or just delivering some altogether idea, when you write it down, it passes through a filter that is yourself and the way you think. It's very different from writing psychography. How should I say?
But writing psychography. I think yesterday we talked a little bit about this, right? One thing is channeling, the other thing is doing psychography, and they're very different, right?
Yes. So like working with a helper, it's to work as a teamwork. And psychography is something that you do not put yourself into that.
You don't have a control.
Yeah, you don't have a control. So for me, it was a very nice experience because we were working together. I was putting my way of thinking in the ideas that wasn't mine. So it's very nice, right? So that's when I realized that this story started exactly the way I am, or I used to be, with observation, questions, and the search for solution. Something that reflects my way of being and acting, even with the small things in everyday life, right? I always used to observe a lot, everything around myself, and question a lot since I was a child. And being searching for a solution is most of the things that I used to do since I was like aware of being a consciousness, right? So that is why when I was told that every book, and especially the first one that we write, is also an autobiography work, I really did not understand very good, because I did not have passed through it. But after I write my own book, I realized we are also there in that lines, right? Because it's our way of thinking. And in that case specifically, when I read, like long after, right? I did not realize that in the beginning. It's only after a while. But I realized most of the three characters that I put down reflects a lot about a point of view of myself. And that's very interesting. And it was a needed teacher, Mario Oliveira, that is from ISIC, that told me, oh, this is an autobiographical book. And I said, no, it's not. I'm not a child. I'm not anything of that. But I realized I was very curious, as Luisa is one of the main characters. And I was parapsychic as Joanna, the other character. So was a mix of myself together, put in the three different characters. It's very interesting. We need someone to tell you the obviously things that shows in your front, right? So in that,
everything,
right,
I would say, everything that we write is exactly that reflection, is a reflection of ourselves. It's very interesting. So you can only write from our point of view up to, even if you create characters, right? Because it's you're always telling
it's your
something.
filter, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, but when you are talking about conscienciological writing, it's even more, because
it's your experience. It's your
yes, we are writing about consciousness, our selves, and our way of understand the world around us, and how we change energy, how all the subjects touch a lot about consciousness, right? And all the time we need to deal ourselves with other consciousness and how we do this. And probably when you write it down, it reflects how you think and it shows how you are. So you can read a book observing the way of the author are talking, and that's another way of reading, right?
And yes, or the other day we were talking about observation, right? So this is something that, next to curiosity, I think the way we observe things inside us and around us is extremely important, especially when you have this thing that you want to write about afterwards or something. You know, the more observing person you are, the more observant, you know, the more you capture the stuff, you know, and
Yes.
that you want to transmit afterwards.
Yes. I love observation. That is going to be a subject that I want to write after I publish the next researcher.
Nice.
The language of cosmos, right? But that's another interview.
Yeah.
So, okay, I was there in that moment with my kids, right? And I realized that I had the title of the book that came very straight, The Little Researcher. The main characters, that was Louise and Gabrielle, two friends who together would seek answers to their more complex questions, alongside with the intraphysical helper, the very special Joanne. I choose to put an intraphysical helper, but she's connected to the energy around her. So she worked as a bridge but I need something very material to explain that to kids in that first moment. So I did not want to afraid or something, talking things that they don't know still, or even maybe we are talking about many different kids, so probably many of them do not see other dimensions, right? So that's why I pick up intraphysical helper. And the first theme I want to talk is the one I was most fascinated, that was multidimensionality. So how we change, how we exchange energy, how we talk about energy, how we can read people with energy. So that's the main topics. And in that moment, I realized, as Liliana said already, that I was creating a template for tiny little books that could going through following the same model of the book, following the same template. They could go into a different adventures toward the pillars of the paradigm, right? And so the first was multidimensionality. So that was the idea, that once the first moment came into my life. But the second point was the step-by-step of publishing one book, one conceptual.
And that's Gabrielle
book.
there. That's Gabrielle.
Oh yeah, that is one of the characters, right? The Gabrielle.
Yeah.
Bem. So I need to present, right, the idea for the publisher. I'd like to publish it into the conscientiological group inside here. So I found Editares, that is a publisher here, and I wasn't living in Foz do Iguaçu already, so I had a schedule. I had a trip scheduled to Foz do Iguaçu, and I took that opportunity to arrange a meeting with the possible publisher, that was Editares. And as you know, I'm a graphic designer. I did want to waste my time going too farther in writing the book. I want to show as a project to them to see if they do approve or they do agree with publishing this book, this kind of book, right? So in July of 2014, I realized I started to face the challenge of getting my first children's book published. The idea surprised me because it was very well received, right? It wasn't a problem. That was not a problem. But it showed me a long journey of self-discovery by writing the end of the story and put all together, right? So the first point was being an artist. So when the idea came to my mind, along with it came the dialogues that were also images that in some cases were complementary to the scenes, right? So that it would be possible to understand the story without many words, without talking too much. So I want a playful book and a very accessible to children that they could read by their own. So I do not want to fool with text the book. So by the time I was like thinking about the dialogue, the images start to come into my mind. However, like despite being a designer, I wasn't an illustrator. I never draw myself, right? Only in university with the classes we need to take, but it wasn't the thing I like to do. So I didn't have these manual skills, and I realized that deep down I was relocating with the possibility of taking a step back and getting into a self-mimicry with drawing activity, right? With being an artist again. Once again, I do not want to step back in that moment. But this would lead me to self-identification of traits, because of course, if I start to draw, I will start to identify myself traits related to art, like an artistic temperament, and things that in that specific moment I insisted to deny. I only admitted that I have traits of artistic traits after like 2 years of self-investigation into consecutivos, into past lives. Because before that, I denied all the time. I used to say design is it's not artistic profissão, field. It's not a artistic field because they are made by they only do what they need to do. They don't create by their own. They are asked to create. So I separate because I needed to deal with that.
Different boxes.
2 different boxes. But after a while, I realized it was all together in the same, right?
But can I say something that's also
Sure.
very interesting? It's because the writing a book, or the process of writing in this case, because we are talking about conscienciology, is also a process of recycling. Some things are going to come up that belong to your past lives, and you have to investigate and recycle, because it's going to show some of your weak traits, some of your, and things that you write. This is, oh, I don't want to touch this, or now I touched that, but I have to resolve this problem in me, and so I can write about it.
So that's why I think the most fastener to our evolutionary process is to start writing, because you must recycle to publish. You must recycle to go further. And it's challenging for sure, but it's worth a lot.
And it doesn't depend on what type of books. Is any type of book.
No, it doesn't.
Will always be that moment, those moments.
Can be a verbete, can be also an article. It all helps a lot to face what you need to face. And just by writing, you face it faster, and you realize something that you do not remember comes out into your words while you're writing, and it's very interesting process, right? But in that moment of thinking about drawing and about the demand and the lot of dedication I need to put to materialize that book, I decided to look for fellows, illustrators fellows, to make them to illustrate for me, because I do not really want to do that. But in the other hand, I knew deep down, right? I always knew that I had to do it myself. And it took me around a year and a half, and it was a supernatural effort to be able to materialize it. If you can see only a few pages of the illustration, right? And the second big challenge for me to recycle and to publish, I did not realize while I was doing, but after a while, when I was doing conscienciometry, that it was publishing for kids. Looks very simple, but for me it was very challenging, because it was something I had like consciously realized from the start, and I only managed to recognize like break later into the conscienciometric together in a class, because I was writing for a target audience that until that moment it seemed to me to not exist into the conscienciological community, because if you go around here, you don't really see kids, right? Right or wrong, it made sense to me. We were discussing science and a complex theme, and children are not present into the everyday life of every conscienciologist. And my colleagues even applied a technique known as anti-maternity, right? So most of my friends do not have children. And a conflict arose. Would the community be interested in publishing more books for children? I did not know. I do not know. But it was like a monster growing to my mind. I do not put it out, right? It was only thinkings and thoughts and those things that make me afraid of publishing for kids into the conscienciological community, right? And then I realized that the conflict was mine. It was personal. It was a self-image conflict, right? I was a newcomer. I was only knew conscienciology only a year ago, only a year before. And I brought with this project two controversial subjects, art and children. So the idealization of wanting to fit a stereotype of the standard conscienciologists is the context we observe. Neither child's universe, motherhood, arts, crafts, nothing of this kind of things, right? So I was not fitted into the stereotype of being a conscienciologist, right? So it makes me feel apart, and I want to feel like together. And when we talk about publishing work under, as Liliana said, right, under the consciential paradigm, it is common to observe self-confrontation regarding intraconsciential recycling and the understand of non-transferable tasks probably accepted even during the intermissive course. So therefore, I have to accept myself as a mother, as a person with didactic ability to translate a complex subject into an accessible language, into a children's language, and as an artist capable of illustrating all of this. So today I realized that 3 years of the delay of publishing my book into, it was like a process of self-de-intrusion, self-confrontation, and also a self-acceptance, right? And that's my complex, my story about publishing or fighting toward the recycling things I need to recycle until publishing the book. But after all, I realized like we have many intermissivists to come still, right? And rhizoma is a constant of this intraphysical dimension, right? The new intermissivists keeping arriving in this world. So it's now pretty clear to me that yes, there is a huge need for material to assist them to reach conscienciology, right? And children's book, I think, are tools for assessing conscienciology in the early age, since you are a child. So helping them to avoid possible distortions regarding parapsychic experience that we all experience since we are child. Like in our childhood, we can help having these different books, we can explain this phenomena in many different ways, right? And we can also help like the newcomers to avoid, first of all, to find passwords, right? Passwords from their intermissivist course. And finally, to avoid a diversion from one's praxis. Due to one's consciential basement, a complex period, of course, we all know, we all pass through this, and during which many of the new intermissivists are being a risk of aborting their proexological task into their basement stage, right? So childhood...
Debora, can you
sure.
just explain a little bit more about the consciential basement?
Yes, during the teenagers, right? When we reach the age of discovering ourselves, we wanna challenge many things. We want to break through and find our paths through life, right? And most of the time, we can reach also our past lives, our bases, from our past lives that connect ourselves, because since we are founded as a consciousness, multi-millennial conscience being, right? We have many backgrounds, and in that moment, we start to remember, not being aware of that, but we start to remember our strong traits, but not only the good strong traits, but the weak strong traits, and we want to try it on. And most of the time we are probably being testados, being
tested. So yeah, you put
Tested.
a lot of the weak traits come up maybe first,
Yes, and we are
and
being tested.
and you want to try on things.
Yeah, and you try on if you have many backgrounds of drinking, probably you are going to go drinking a lot, or if you have many sexual problems in your past lives, you're probably going to try it on again. So many things you don't need to repeat again, once again in this life, that you could avoid. Probably you are going to be tested, and probably they have like we have our iscas, how should I say, the triggers,
Yeah,
that
something that triggers. Yeah.
that triggers you to make things you are not supposed to make anymore. Doesn't make any sense after an intermissive course, right? I don't know if I make it clear, if
Yeah, and
Jacqueline
even
or wants to complement that, because okay.
I think that even this version of ourselves that we exhibit in the teenage years, or most people exhibit, of being a more egocentrical person, right? The child is normal that they are egocentric, because that's, all they know first. Their own world is themselves, and then everyone around, and then that's how you go and expand, right? But as you grow up and you become a teenager, if you're still very egocentric, and then if you don't resolve these problems, you become that sort of adult that is still self-centered and very egotistic, and that, and this is all consensual basement as well, right?
Yes, exactly.
Comes from there, and was
We
not
can,
resolved.
and we can find lots when we are doing conscienciometry. We can find lots of our weak traits looking through our basement period, right? If we go look to this moment in ourselves life, right, we can find some or most of our weak traits because they are showing bigger. And so, but another problem that I think from now on in childhood and even in teenagers, right, is the demand in an increasingly complex level of retiniarity from the new intermissivists, which in times of reurbanizations, that is the time that we are passing now, and also the abundance. So we have many things to distract ourselves. It's difficult to maintain this straight line from intermissive
The focus,
course,
right?
the
Difficult to
focus,
maintain
yes,
focus, because we become very dispersive.
yes.
That's
And nowadays it's harder than it was to us. So we need these passwords from since the childhood, since our earlier ages, to reach or to prevent some self-mimicry, right?
Yeah.
And so I think we have a big invitation to write to this target audience. And it will require us to see the first difficulties, as I said in my cases, right, of our own childhood, and through our example of overcoming our difficulties into our childhood, or even in other phases during our lives, and think how we could help children to overcome the issues of the specific period in a lighter and a faster way, without major setbacks. Because, for example, in my childhood, I'm writing about multidimensionality, right? But in my childhood, I used to have many phenomena, and I could not understand very good. And all the time I was searching for something to close these eyes that I already had like the third eye, let's say, because I don't want to see all that dead people, all the people suffering around, and I do not understand what to do with dead people. And I don't know if everybody was knowing the movie Sixth Sense, that it shows the little boy with looking around. That's why I was myself until 8, 9 years old. And it's afraid me a lot. Even though I have a friend that I really like it, and my mom, it's my memory because I don't have my memory from that friend. And okay, it was a good part, but it was most of the time I only remember
you were afraid of, yeah, the
afraid
fear.
of closing my eyes, because if I close my eyes, I could see longer the people around me, and that was a very strange feeling. And I'd like to read my own book in the next life, right? Because I think it will help me a lot. Actually, I hope I can make a vínculo, how should I say, division. I will not pass through this anymore. I hope so. I will come a little bit aware of my duties next lives. Yeah. But it's okay, we never know. So at least I publish a book, I can find them in next lives. So
and you will publish more, so we will have
for sure. And that's the point. It can work as a self-relay also, right? And optimizing the possible overcoming and the bottlenecks, right, for the next lives. So what I felt with publishing this book was open doors, and it was very grateful because since the beginning I have many helps from the helpers, from the intraphysical helps, from the friends, from the community. And the first thing, like when the day I was released at CEAEC, the community here in Foz do Iguaçu, I realized that I did not realize how it could open the doors, and not only for me, right? Because I was having a coffee in that moment after the release, after launching the book, in the coffee shop close to the Tertuliarium, and I had someone that asked me, "Can I translate your book into Japanese?" Hearing that really impacted me. It was like, wow, I never imagined my book like going out Foz do Iguaçu, you know, and I was very happy having the book here in Foz do Iguaçu. And the idea of delivering it outside borders never came into my mind. And in the very moment I published, that woman came to me, and I was, no way, I need to think bigger, right? I need to think bigger. So I realized that a simple and very simple material like my book would allow this expansion in the dissemination of the ideas. So the first translation was English. It wasn't Japanese. It didn't happen still. I did not went back to that woman to ask her to translate. I need to do that. But Liliana knows how hard it is to translate my book, because she needs to ask me tons of time. Can I do it? Can you send me? Can you send me? Blah, blah, blah. So she insisted we would translate the book into the English first. And of course, I'm very grateful, because as I see that the effort of distributing our books demands constant de-intrusion. It helps when we are not alone. And when we have someone supporting yourself, it makes it easier. And we cannot imagine or understand how the extra physical pressures you to stay stuck, stay still, don't move forward. And having like people encourage and motivating us to go further favors constant growth in the materialization of our group pro-access, because I don't think this book is mine. I think the book is for the new intermissivists, yes. So we launched the English version, the little research, during the interactive meeting in Strasbourg in November 2018. Thanks for Liliana, because it depends of only myself. I was not able to do it for sure. And there, after I launch, every time I launch it, I have another invitation. So after I launch there, the release over there, Manuela Unold suggests translate the book into German. And it's now translated. I got it 1 week ago from Manuela, and I need to put it down and print down, right? And this language, the German language, for me, resonate or connect myself into a deeper heritage or something like that, because since I'm studying past lives, and my heritage is from German, also, not only, but also, I start to look more into the synchronicities around this language. And not only me, but few people here after parapsychic dynamics told me, oh, you must translate this book into German. Some people said, oh, I think there's many intermissivists going to be born there. I don't know, it's a hypothesis, right? But I see the needed to have this book in German specifically, right? But now it's being translated to Spanish, that Virginia asked me to do it, and I'm very glad. And also in Norwegian, that another friend of mine asked it. So I never really make a movement toward that, but I think the helpers work on the backstage, inspire people to feel connected to that book, and to want to translate it, right? And I think that's before going to some tips that to write for kids and to develop our writing, right? I want to, because I heard a story from a volunteer from Portugal that makes me understand how after you publish a book for children, it gains legs or wings, right? And the movement works involuntarily. So when Valdo Vieira used to say, books works for themselves, it's true, right? Because after you do that, you materialize that, when you see it, it's in everywhere. And once one volunteer from Portugal, Denise, I forgot her second name, she sent me some pictures of a play that she was working with kids there for like 3 months into my book, developing a play with their own words of the characters into the book. And they made a play, they made a show for the parents that was very Catholic. But the children were very open to receive that information. They understand how the energy talks by their self. And they don't need to do, if they are angry, they're going to show by their energy that angry. So the feeling, Tosin, right? The Tosin not technique, how should I say? The Tosin, say, basis of the Tosin, right? The thoughts, the energy, and the feelings, they are all together, and they could understand that it very easy. And she said she's going to work with all the kids because she works with arts and crafts and theater and plays. And she loved the book too, because it's very easy to the kids to understand. And even though they come from a Catholic, most of them, families, she do not confront their beliefs, but she expands their beliefs. She put a seed, right? If they find after they grow up, they can make it grow bigger, probably. I don't know. But you don't need to be, because one of my duties of not be too committed with the book after publishing it was because I was thinking, oh, should I work with kids? Should I do this with kids? But I saw some people who likes to use my book as a didactic material to work with them. So we are in an engineer, right? So I wrote, someone else can teach or explain or read as a mom or as a teacher in a classroom, whatever. So even though you don't feel like working harder with your own book, someone else can do it. And that's what happened with mine, right? I don't know if anybody else wants to, I talked a lot. If someone wants to ask something.
I think it's, we were discussing the other day as well, the book is not the end, it's just the beginning.
Oh, right? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, everything that happens afterwards, we have no idea.
And one thing I realized, like, since I was very into motherhood in that moment, like all my universe around myself was motherhood because they are very young. I think the helper was very smart, right? They put me into a job that I was able to do it. I know everything around. And
sorry.
Okay. And I know everything around. I have many kids' book at home. I know the language, and I wasn't prepared to publish anything else because I was only 1 year studying conscienciology, right? So it was very first steps still. But I want to since I started into conscienciology, I think many people feel the same. I felt like in a debt. So I think I feel as in debt. So I need to hurry up. So I need to publish. I need to give classes. I need to learn.
When is the second one coming out? When is the second one coming out?
I hope this year still. I can figure it out this year.
Very good.
Probably.
Debora, I have not a question, but more of a comment, a statement to make based on what you were saying. It's funny because it seems like your book is the start of something. It's you know, you're helping your target audience, the children. It's related with your pro-access, but other people as well. Like, for example, the translators. Why these translators are you know, involved in this kind of work? Maybe it's connected also with, you know, their target audience, children, and part of their pro-access, and also these people who are using the book. It's interesting how, you know, it's connected with other people, and then of course the spill-on effects from that with the people that it reaches and helps. So it's very interesting how a single book can, you know, have all these effects. Positive.
Yeah, it's kind of a chain, right? Because we are all together, but I don't think we are together in this book for nothing. I think there is many background or past lives background into that, as Liliana with me into arts, probably Virginia with me with kids, Manuela with monarchy, that I feel more connected with her. So we can start to touch the basis of the connections, right?
Can I also say I'm researching also in the area of Syriaxology, you write about a character, a person from the 19th century Victorian era. And among the many styles of books she wrote 50 books in different styles. Only one of them is novel, everything else is totally different. But among the various genres that she also wrote books for children. So here's a connection. I've also taught children in, even in this lifetime. And I've been doing so in this lifetime from a very early age, teaching English to children. So it's funny, really fun.
And after I was invited to do this talk for Liliana, and I prepared myself, I write it down because like English is not my first language, not even the second, like, so it was very challenging. Jacqueline worked with me a lot through this, and I decided to publish an article with the speech of this, because I think everything, if you can publish most of the thing you think or you present as a class or as a speech, as a I don't know, whatever you do here, if you can put together in nice words and publish, it will stay. I don't know if other thing will stay. So I put together these words that I talked here together into an article. And I pick up a citation. How should I say citation?
A quote, you're quoting.
A quote. From Valdo that very make me feel relief. I don't know, less in a hurry, right? Because it says like the publication of a tiny book from now on leads you to a big book and to a mega book. So if you don't start, you will not be able to have a megagescon. How should I say this?
Megagescon.
Megagescon. So you need to start. And for me to start was really tiny book, right? Children's book.
Tiny, but very important. We tend to think that books for children, maybe they're not so important sometimes as for adults, but they are even more important sometimes, because it's as you were talking, as you were saying, it's the intermissivists, the current and the future intermissivists that we are helping.
And another target that I found with this book was the pre-intermissivists that cannot understand very well the basis of the conscientiology. If they read, and I had many feedbacks out of that, if they read the book, they can understand what we are talking about here in this crazy community that likes to talk very complex themes, right? So
besides what you were saying as well, now it's also the parents, the teachers, everyone working with children. So it's, it's many people. Right?
My Grupo Karmic, they can understand what I am doing now, because they can read this book that is very easy, and they can understand, right, what we are doing here, that we are talking about energy, that we are talking about sixth sense that everybody has, but not into a religion, not into a dogmatic way. So that's very clarifying way of saying parapsychic, right? Saying parapsychism. So I want to invite everybody to write a book if you feel like write a book, because after I published the book in Editares, I was actually volunteering there. Was my first volunteer when I moved to Foz do Iguaçu. And I saw that after the publishing this book, or in the same time, right? Because it was a huge demand, an extra physical demand to publishing for kids. And arrived into Editares many other children's books. Most of them are not published until now, because as I said, that must lots of recycling stuff to be able to publish. It's not very simple as looks like, right? But there's kind of 15 books, children's books over Editares. That's many, right? So who do you think is inspiring everybody to write for kids? That's only a coincidence, or there is a needed to write for kids? So I think there is a needed to write. So if you can put it down like a single thing, as I saw, very nice one, it says from about the estado vibracional,
Vibrational state.
Vibrational state. It's like a 20-page book, but very nice and very, very didactic for kids, right? So doesn't need to be like a huge one, and I read many of them, and there's lots of good stories. Some of them more complex for teenagers or early teens, and others for young kids. So there's
Yes, because all that is needed, different ages, children, teens,
yes.
then growing up, like we have that book Cons, which is such a good book as well.
Yes.
It's comics, and it's such a great way of approaching the themes as well. So yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah. What is the subject of your next book?
Oh, I put here. I'd like to thank you, everybody, right? Because it was very nice to be able to speak all my paths until publishing the book. I think was a very nice experience to do that. But my next one is memory and past lives. So as you see, once again, I am talking about something that I am doing, because I am a researcher about memory that very motivate myself to study memory, the hollow memory, and past lives is where I now volunteer. And so I have all this knowledge into myself, because I used to give classes in consecutivos in the School of Personality.
Consecutive personality, yeah.
Consecutive personality. So I understand. Now I know everything, of course not, but I know many things, so I can put it down. So I think it's how it works. You learn and you deliver. You learn and you deliver. Don't wait to learn too much. Otherwise, it's going to be so hard to write all together, right?
Yeah, that's true. So one suggestion maybe is write along your research, right? Because if we are going to research everything and then write afterwards, it's going to be very complicated, right? Because there's always things that you learn in the process of researching, right? In those recycling times that happen as well, then you realize some bits flow faster than others. Why is this not flowing now? What is it that I have to do? What is it that I'm not doing? Sometimes you have this type of things that have to do with rethinking and recycling some stuff. Yeah. So
Oh, yeah.
if
So
you
I
go
like to
back
thank you,
to
my
your,
mom that is here also. My mom
yes,
doesn't
that's very
understand
nice.
completely English, but she's doing classes, English class, never
Very
late
good.
to learn, right?
Exactly. Very good. Very good. Congratulations there. So
So
if you go back a little bit to a previous that one, this
yeah, this is what I used to give in the classes into the UNIESCON.
yes,
We have
this
how it calls in English the classes, the course, the UNIESCON
the
courses.
training authors, training authors.
Yes, training authors, and also into the oficina. How should I say oficina?
It's a workshop. It's a workshop.
Workshop. In a workshop that we used to have every Wednesday, not now anymore, but I hope it come back soon. Pick up in a team, right? As I said in the beginning, you must observe what you are most motivating about, because you must be very motivated to be committed to have this engaged for 2-3 years. I don't know, because it rests like for a little long. So you need to have this kind of, not passion, because I don't use this word anymore as an artist, but you have to have this kind of motivation, right? To be committed. And so follow the evidences, because as I said, I wasn't an artist, right? It was a very clear evidence. Everybody who know me knew that, not me. So if you can't see yourself very good,
you were in denial. You were in denial.
Yes, that's
Which,
it. So
as the English say, denial is not just a river in Egypt.
so you must go to like a guinea pig workshops to understand your real traits, right? And to see, I like, as I am a volunteer in Consecutivos, one thing that helped me confront the evidence that I like to put under the couch, let's say, was the techniques of researching our past lives. It helped me a lot. I'm now working with Jacqueline to have more classes, right, Jacqueline, into this self-research field of past lives, to deliver these techniques to everybody who wants to do self-research into this line specific. It helps you confrontate yourself with things that you are not, you do not want to see looking to the mirror. If you look to somebody else, you can see yourself. So it's another way to look to yourself, looking to another biography, look to other lives, making a cotejo, how should I say?
Can we, I like to say cross-check. Is a cross-check between?
Cross-check biography to another person from your life now. So it's another way to discover the evidence of your own life. So it helps to be aware of yourself. That's the most important tool that I want to reach. And still want to reach awareness, right? Be lucid, right?
And also it is important to assume, right, what we have and use what we have now for better purposes.
Of course. Retell, right? Retell things that you used to say. If I look back into my past life, probably I frightened people about a parapsychism, right? Probably, it's a hypothesis. So now what I'm doing now, I'm retelling.
Or maybe you used your artistry also to paint religious themes or something.
Wow, I never
Who
thought
knows?
about this evidence. See,
You know,
it
I
makes
don't know.
sense.
Yeah, maybe. And now you're doing so much better job, but you still have this thing there that is a capacity that not all of us have. So each one of us has um, different tools. But the important thing is that you actually assume, realize I can do this, and actually use them in a
Yes.
good cosmetical way.
Yes, that's true. You said one thing that because when I start to draw myself, I said, wow, I can't draw because it's very like a kid's drawing, right? It's not like a nice draw, or perfect or
It's so
realistic.
cute.
But I said, because perfection is a weak trait, right? Of doing things or doing much things. And I do not want to draw as a kid. But that was another confrontation that I need to deal, because if I was drawing like a realistic way, I was taking like 10 years to draw all these pages, right? So
Yeah, Daria, I would invite you to participate. This that you wrote here in the chat is really interesting. Daria wrote in the chat, but maybe she can talk about it. She says, I believe it was Einstein who said something like explaining things in a simple way is a sign of profound understanding. And it's a big challenge when writing, no matter what the audience is.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, so I don't know about if it was Einstein or not, but yeah, this is really to make things simple is the most complex thing, so to speak. You have to know a lot about the subject to be able to go into it and simplify things, make it simple for everyone else. That's a process that I like, so I like to try to do that.
Reading that, I got a energetic shower.
Yeah.
Yes, very nice. I like it. Thank you, Darja. My mom actually sent a picture that used to send by WhatsApp, right? From Einstein, was Einstein and Charlie Chaplin together in a picture. Mm. And Charlie Chaplin said, wow, you are so brilliant, right? You say things very complex. And Einstein said, yes, I say things very complex and nobody understands me. And you do not say nothing and everybody understands you. Because he used to do mimics, right? Yeah. So without words, everybody can understand you. And I'm putting down lots of words and nobody can understand me. So it's very, and was a dialogue between them two. And it was very nice. That made me think a lot, right? So what you want to communicate, that's what we need to think. And probably we need to communicate what we are having with the traits we have more developed it and more presenting our manifestation, and using the texts we know, and we are not alone. So ask friends, and we can ask, of course, do not need to know how to draw, right? That was my challenge, but doesn't need to be anybody else. So it's a teamwork. So that's the most important thing to
It's always a teamwork, right? Intraphysical and extraphysical, for starters. Yeah, you have the extraphysical helpers and the intraphysical ones, as you said. It always starts with extraphysical helpers as well. Right?
So I'm looking forward to see many children's books published into the conscienciological paradigm, because it's very important to translate, to make into a simplest way of speech, of clarifying the complex subjects that we are trying to understand still, right? So we are in the same boat as the children's, right? So we are trying to understand many things.
Exactly.
So I have a question. I don't know if other people have questions, but I know it's 5 minutes to the end. But Debora, I would like to know if you had any positive extra-physical repercussions, I don't know, experience of the body, any type of, things you, after publishing this book. I don't know if there's something you can share.
From the not very lucid, okay, but half lucid dreams, right? I have many experience rescuing kids, and most of them was like into a cave, having many troubles, and I was cleaning most of the time. It was very like a symbolic way of rescue. But as I read in many books, I see seems like a place, a extra physical place that used to have like people to be rescued. So most of them that in my dreams are kids. So I used to think, if I'm rescuing, probably or they're going to reborn soon, or they're going to the course, the intermissive course. One I remember very good, I was trying to find a door. I was open many doors. It was a very strange place, and was a kid into a bathroom, very not good, underground. And the kid was like in a position, shaking a lot, with many things into his ear. And I need to put my hand, take it out the ears, and it seems like I was disconnecting the kid from the intruders that was like dominating him. And a few of my projections, I am with my husband. He doesn't remember. I hope one day we can remember together. But he helps most of the time. I clean and he carries. Another one was into a river, and I found a cave in the on the side of the river, and into there was a kid, and I need to take it out, the kid, and clean it up. Another one was in a highway, and I need to stop down the car and put very fast the kids into my car, because it was like somebody going to pick them up, and I need to go faster. And there is a few of memories. I have everything written down. I did not put together, but I'd like to do this to see if there is a path that connects all remembering memories of the rescue and stuff. But that's what I remember. There is many others. That was just a few of them. It's interesting, right? How can we work? And I had some of them with kids with problem with the mind, the brain damage. That was very challenging for me, because I need to deal with another thing that I am very afraid that is being crazy, and I need to go rescue crazy or brain damage. That it's a better way to say that, kids. And that was another way of confrontate my recycling stuff. And I asked help from Alexandre Dungi, that is knowing to study this kind of brain damage, to make me understand. Because since I am doing this job outside body, I want to understand here in this dimension also, right? And it makes me study a little more about the brain damage possibilities. So many things to still make it done, right?
Thank you very much. I don't know if anyone has any other question. Our time is up, I suppose. Yeah, just 1 minute to go. I want to thank you very much. It was lovely to have you here, and you know, our discussion of this theme, so good. I want to thank everyone for being here as well. And at the same time, our last presentation this year, because we are getting to the end of the year, we don't know how, but right, with all this that is going on. But our last presentation of the Bridge Writers this year will be in December on the 27th. So quite to the end of the year, right? 27th of December, we will have Dulce Dow, and she will be presenting also on a very interesting subject that has to do with past lives, which is restorative writing. So the people that wrote something that was not so good and now probably need to write again and put it right, yeah, to restore the truth, or, you know, as we know it better now. So it's also a very interesting subject. Right. So
Nice. Thank you, everybody. I'm available
welcome.
if you needed to ask questions. You can reach me, or I can help you to develop your own book. I'm available to do that. So
especially because you're also a teacher at UNIESCON, right?
Yes.
Which is, you know, doing this, which is a course that we want to have in English. Hopefully next year we will be in a better position to do this.
Okay.
That's my hope.
Everybody.
You keep working for that. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, Daja. Bye, Marcelo.
Bye.
Jacqueline, Lu.
Bye-bye. Lou is also here.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Phil.
Goodbye. Goodbye.